Hey friends, it's Mr. Rogers. Today we're going to cover diffusion. And today it's going to be a lot of drawing some pictures and thinking about how we know the world works. We just haven't really explained it to you. And I want to make sure that we understand the basics here. So your first assignment today was you read a story, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you read a story about me and my grandma. And you can believe me or not, but that's actually a true story. And so, how did I smell those things? Like, how was I able to know that there was something going on? And how did it move through the house, or how does smell even work in general? And that's really what diffusion is about. So, diffusion is the movement of particles. And it's the movement of particles as a universal rule. This is not something that just happens in cells or in your house. This happens across the whole universe. Diffusion is something that happens everywhere. And so the fact that it happens everywhere means that we kind of have to understand the basic principles. And this idea of diffusion is honestly what generates most of the science and things that happen on Earth. You know, the wind is the movement of diffusion. We have pressure systems and earth science. We're talking about the different highs and low pressures and weather. That's because of diffusion, the movement from one side to another, okay, of these particles. And so we're going to talk a lot about this. So we'll start here. You guys have all probably put food coloring inside of a drink. You put food coloring in, it slowly spreads out. Why is it spreading out? That's the main answer question today. Why does something spread out? So diffusion for us and our cells, we'll write diffusion down here in our notes. Diffusion is the movement. My pink pen's dying on me. The movement of particles from high to low. And what does high to low mean? It can mean a couple different things. So let's talk about it. It can mean concentration. And that's kind of what happened with the story of my grandma. Is if I'm a little kid here, yeah, look at me, I'm perfect, and there's an oven over here cooking cookies, and it starts on fire. There's my fire. That was probably the worst fire ever. And the little smokes come out. There's a high concentration of smoke particles here, and universally they're going to start moving. It requires no energy from the universe. They're just going to start spreading out, and they're going to spread towards me. They're going to start thinning out as they spread, and they finally get to me. And as I'm walking towards the actual fire, I'm hitting more and more particles, so the smell gets more and more intense. Okay, so these particles are moving high to low. It all started over here, and they started spreading out high to low. There was a lot here, none here. The same idea could be said about, I'm going to ask a question in the next assignment about a high school or middle school boy. We've all been there. A middle school boy with Axe body spray. Axe body spray spreads really well in the air. If you've not noticed, one person can spray it, and it smells like Axe body spray forever in that room. And so what happens is it gets up into the air, there's a high concentration, and it spreads out high to low. There's a high concentration here, so it's going to spread out through the room. Just so you're aware, smells don't really usually go away. They're going to dissipate down and maybe fall to the surfaces and stuff like that. But why smells go away after a while is one of two things. Your brain either gets used to it and your brain just shuts off the smell. It's like it's not a big deal. Or two, the particles become so spread out that you're not getting enough particles in your nose to recognize. And there's different things evolutionary wise, like it doesn't take much for us to recognize the smell of smoke. We only have to get a couple particles for that. But a smell, like, that's not that important to us, it could sit there and linger for hours before we get enough particles for it to actually hit. Okay? So concentration is a big one. Temperature is a big one. Not a lot of people think about temperature. That's kind of important. So if there is a high temperature, it goes towards the lower side. So it moves. Temperature spreads out, high to low. And also so does pressure. And you guys kind of know that. You've shaken a pop can before. You have a person that shakes a pop can. I don't know why his head's so crazy. And he shakes it up and down, creating that pressure in the can, all that CO2 coming out of solution. And then he opens it. There's a high pressure inside the can, and it wants to come out. And so you open the can, unscrew the top, whatever it is, and it sprays everywhere because it went from a high pressure to a low pressure. So diffusion is movement of particles from high to low. From high to low. Now, using this guy, we can kind of talk about what causes diffusion. Okay? So what causes diffusion is molecules always are moving. Now, this is a hard principle for honestly anyone understands, just students, anybody. But molecules are always moving. Always, 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 always. In AP Bio, we call this Brownsian movement. It's named after a guy, Dr. Brown. Brownsian movement basically just means particles are always moving, and they're moving, really importantly, random-ish. And by random-ish, I mean there's obviously a trend of how they're moving. Like I said in diffusion, they're always moving high to low. But as you can see, the Axe body spray, I really wanted it to hit me. But instead of hitting me, it went out and then decided to go this way. Or the smoke, obviously in this picture, it just went in this direction. But you also have to understand it probably went in the other direction too. It went up. It went everywhere. There's a general movement, but it's random. Okay? Now going back to the slide, if there's more particles in one area, there's more collisions. Kind of like people, if I put all the people in my class in a really tiny area and left the room, and I said walk around, you guys are going to bump into each other, and then you guys are going to slowly spread out across the room and get even space. And so that's important, that last line. Eventually they will spread evenly throughout the area. The requirement here is they are moving towards equilibrium. Equilibrium. I wish it was spell check. I don't know if that's right or not. Someone needs to invent that. Spell check for a pen. So this equilibrium means that I have particles, say I have a room, and they're going to keep spreading out until they're all spaced out exactly apart. Now, if you are a thinker, hopefully you're all thinkers, I'm hoping in your head right now you're thinking, how the heck are they all going to, they're moving randomly, they're all going in different directions, how is this ever going to move towards equilibrium? How is it ever going to be equal? And the answer, the true answer in the real world, it's never going to be equal. These particles are always moving. They're always trying to equal out. Will they ever equal out? No. If they actually do equal out, I don't know what happens. I don't know if they win a prize or the world explodes, but in real world, scientifically, nothing ever equals out. They're just moving towards equilibrium. Kind of like a basketball player, the best basketball player in the world, depending on who you think it is, say it's LeBron James. LeBron James is trying to be perfect with his free throws. He's trying to make every shot. Is he truly making every shot? No, he's moving towards that, though. That's his goal. These particles, not that they have really goals, but they're moving towards equilibrium. So how does that affect the cell? So say I have a cell here. I want to draw a couple phospholipids and their tails. So I have some phospholipids, and I have something like, let's just do a couple dots here, and we'll say it's oxygen. And oxygen can actually just walk right through the cell membrane. As you can see, I kind of left some spaces here so you can kind of visualize it. And oxygen wants to be balanced on both sides. I have a high concentration here. I have a low concentration here. I only have 3 oxygens. I have a lot up here. I mean, it's not even worth my time counting. So it's going to move from a high to low in our cells. And our cells do this and allow this to happen for some things because it's free. It costs no energy for this to happen, this movement. And so, for example, for oxygen, say this is the blood out here and this is the cell here. Well, they want that to happen. They want oxygen to come into the cell so they can use it. And so this movement requires no energy. So that's important to have. Let's start that up here. Make sure we remember that. This is no energy. And we can move particles from high to low. Okay, high to low. Now, today, the rest of the day, if I go to here, you guys have a diffusion thought experiment. This is just something you're going to think through. Think through it, talk about it, answer the questions, keep it. Might not be the worst thing to keep. As you can see, it's not really required to turn in, but, you know, yep. And then we have the transport drawing here. This is what I want you to start. If you click into transport drawing, you will see that we here are cell transport drawing 1, picture diffusion. I want you to define diffusion. I want you to label the following: inside, outside the cell, cell membrane, the solute, which are just little particles, remember, the little particles that we're moving. Explain what is happening in each picture. So if you want to find a picture of diffusion, it's not hard. I can go right here, Google, diffusion, drawing, go here, look, hundreds of diffusion drawings. Just make sure you guys pick one that's actually diffusion, not one like this where it has active transport and facilitate diffusion. I want diffusion. This is actually an excellent picture here. This would be a really good one to draw. Some of these other ones, that one's okay. There's better ones. So make sure you draw one that makes sense and is a good drawing representing what it looks like, what diffusion looks like. And one of the big things here is it says it needs to be a cell. This is not a cell, so that's why that one's a bad one. This is a cell. You can see the membrane here, so that's a good picture as well. So make sure you guys draw a good picture. Enjoy it. Take your time. Make sure you do a good job in the picture. And make sure you do an SR piece of paper because you're going to turn this in. You're going to take a picture of it and turn it in later this week. So I hope that makes sense. Have a wonderful day.